Hello, I am Samantha Tomlinson.
I am Kevin Tracy, and welcome to Movie Reel. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
took us forever to actually start recording this one because all of our normal channels of recording just decided not to work. So, yay!
It
Through the
was
graces of God,
painful.
through the graces of God, we are now able to talk to you right now. We are talking to you from beyond.
Oh my god. How
I
this
am a
the
ghost.
lengths
Fear me, boo.
the lengths the lengths we go to make a podcast.
Yes, because we are committed to you, the people.
I don't know why if this is a bad thing. You said I am a ghost and the first thing I thought of was SpongeBob's "Oh my gosh, a floating shopping list."
I I knew you were going to make some kind of Nickelodeon reference. It was either going to be SpongeBob or Danny Phantom with you,
We
because I know you obsess about the box ghost.
well, well, can we agree that we both obsess about the box ghost? It's not specifically me.
True,
Like
it is not
for
specifically you.
for months, we would just have text conversations of "I am the box ghost. Beware."
Beware. But oh, for crying out loud! Okay, I just went on to Netflix right now, and my sister changed my profile to Tina, you fat lard. Oh, what a loving sister
Is
I
that
have.
is that from Bob's Burgers?
No, she doesn't watch Bob's Burgers. It's from Napoleon Dynamite, the llama.
That should be an episode because I haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite.
Are you serious?
I remember when it came out and my sister got mad at me. I don't know how old I was, but I was like elementary school at least. And my sister was mad at me because I didn't really want to go see it. And then my mom took her, and afterwards they're like, they didn't like it. So I just assumed that it was bad. And then I was noticing that everybody loved Napoleon Dynamite because my parents like my mom's like, or my sister or someone was like, yeah, you didn't miss much, it wasn't good or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but everybody
Okay.
around me loves it, so I'm like, oh, maybe they're the weird ones. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think so. I think your family's might be the odd one. I mean, it was. I do admit that I think Napoleon Dynamite was a bit before of its time because it's a really odd type of humor. It's not for everybody. It's a very niche sense of like nonsensical humor of kind of anti jokes. In a
Yeah,
sense, it's just very dry humor of like, hey Tina, you fat lord, come get some dinner, and it's just him like feeding his like grandma's llama, and
I've
it's just that weird dialogue that is just so quotable now
yeah,
that it's hilarious now looking back on how big it was back then, even though it made no sense back then, and that's what made it so funny.
okay.
Yeah, no, we are definitely doing that on an
I'm
episode
I'm
really soon
I'm
because I did not
yeah.
know you had not seen that.
Are you really that surprised?
I I'm very surprised. I'm a little
Oh,
disappointed in you, honestly.
you're disappointed
But yeah,
because
no,
I haven't seen it, or because I actually managed to surprise you
uh, that you
about
haven't seen it.
I'm pretty sure I'm 90% sure that it was like I was at like church, like Sunday school, and we all had to like go around and say whatever, and somebody said that their favorite movie was Napoleon Dynamite. And I think that was like one of the first times where I'm like, oh wait, somebody likes that movie. Like I did.
Yeah, no, I remember going to Target and there was just Napoleon Dynamite merchandise everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then like really close after that, Nacho Libre came out, and apparently that was made by the same people, and they were just branding it as like from the makers of Napoleon Dynamite brings you Nacho Libre
Do
starring
you
Jack
like
Black.
Nacho
It's like,
Libre?
what?
Do you like Nacho Libre?
It's hit or miss with me. I
Okay.
like it in like a nostalgic way, kind of like how I'm fond of School of Rock.
Okay. I saw it when I was in 5th grade at a sleepover, and I remember it was between Nacho Libre and She's the Man. And I wanted to watch She's the Man, but we ended up watching Nacho Libre, and I don't know. I thought it was kind of stupid. I didn't really like it,
Well,
but
to be fair, She's the Man is also kind of dumb
well,
too.
She's the Man is great.
I have it on DVD, so I'm
So do
aware of
I.
how great it is.
So, like, She's the Man is great. I don't know, but I remember I'm like, I wanted
Yeah,
to see the movie I had seen. I didn't want to watch something new, and then we watched something new, and I don't know.
yeah.
But then one of my friends like loves it.
Okay,
Actually, it was funny. One of my friend and her boyfriend dressed up as Nacho and the other guy,
it's like
and he like carried around
Ignacio, I
and
think.
yeah, and he carried around corn the whole night, like a
Yeah, and
yeah.
he stabs him too in the eye socket with it at one
And
point.
then somebody, um, one of our friends got drunk and bit part of the corn, and so they took a picture, and you can see like a chunk of corn just is missing.
Oh my god.
um, yeah. Okay.
So remind me, she's the man. That's the one where
It's based off
Amanda
of
Bynes.
Amanda Bynes, based off of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and
Okay,
her school's soccer team gets cut, and they won't let her
that,
try out for the boys.
that's right. And she pretends to be her brother while he's in England. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I remember that now. Yeah, and her love interest is Channing Tatum, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. No, I remember that very well, and I also remember it a bit more because I was in a play of Twelfth Night,
Oh, there's
like
the your play of She's
years
the
ago.
Man.
Yeah, no, I was in a play production of She's the Man. It was very old school. It was by some dude named Shakespeare or something.
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. It's like Will I Am, but different.
Will I am Shakespeare? Oh
Yeah.
God.
Okay, but yeah, we're not here to talk about poetry. We're here to talk about an animated classic, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, coming out at 2018 and won best animated picture of that year, if I remember correctly.
Um, yeah, I remember I think watching the Golden Globes last year, and it was going through all of the like best animated what all the animations whatever, and it was Incredibles 2, and I was like yeah, and then there was some other movie, and I was like yo that one, and then it did like Into the Spider Verse. I'm like oh that's gonna win, and it did.
Yeah, no, definitely.
um, so yeah, it was
I
this.
mean, when you have the voice talents of both Nick Cage and John Mulaney
What a
combined,
beautiful combo.
the possibilities are truly limitless there.
So yeah, so this movie came out last year. It is animated. It's not within the same universe as like MCU. This is Sony in
Yeah, this
association with Marvel.
yeah,
Um,
this is its own thing, and it very much shows. It does have like the classic Spider-Man story of like guy gets bitten by a radioactive spider and he's like sticking to walls and like it's an origin story for the second Spider-Man, Miles Morales, which I was really happy that they did that because I'm tired of seeing like the
Peter
same
Parker.
story. Yeah, the same story of like Peter Parker like kind of being done to death. Like there's there's
Yeah,
been
I
three
gotta
Spider-Men.
say, yeah. So I remember when they were doing Amazing Spider-Man, which this Spider-Man is Amazing Spider-Man, which I thought was really cool that they were doing that version. But anyway, yeah, like I remember like Andrew Garfield, I thought did like a great performance. Thought he did a good performance. Whatever. It was just kind of why are we getting another Spider-Man? Do we need one?
Yeah,
And then they were saying, oh, we need a new one for Avengers, and I think we were all like, why do we need another? Like I was getting annoyed, but then when I watched Civil War and Homecoming, I was like, oh my god, Tom Holland's a great Spider-Man. So I'm like, you know
I
what? I'll
I agree too, and he's like actually the proper age for Spider-Man because I felt
yes,
like
he's not
Tobey Maguire
30.
was just like yeah. I mean, to his credit, Tobey Maguire did a fantastic job.
No, he's great. I watching. I will say that him. It's not. He's very awkward. Like his character itself is
Yeah,
very awkward, which is fine and it works.
which works especially well with the awkward Peter Parker, awkward high school student who's
But
going through
Andrew,
changes.
yeah,
That is like, I was like, this isn't a puberty metaphor at all. It's like I'm sticking to everything. It's like, oh, okay, that's weird.
Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker, he isn't as he's. Kind of a social outcast, but he himself is not as awkward. And then
Yeah, no,
Tom
he
Holland,
seems.
yeah, he's a little cooler. There's just this.
Yeah, no, he seems to like know everybody, even though he's kind of like on friendly terms with everyone. But even when he's like being bullied by Flash, and that is like, okay, he just kind of you're not like his favorite target, whereas like he's like you're like the go to like bully victim, like you're bully bait. Whereas in this one, it just seems like oh he's just doing this to everybody. You're not like
Yeah,
the number one target
yeah.
for all the bullies.
And
he had like a weird sense. He had like a weird sense of like charisma to it that was like awkward charm. Is like okay,
yes,
that kind of works.
he was way more confident. I mean, none of it was bad. It was fine. Like I had no problem with it. But then I realized the thing about Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Spider-Man that I love so much is that he's the proper age and he is awkward, but it's
Yeah,
like awkward because he's a teenager, not because like Tobey Maguire, as much as we all love Tobey Maguire's performance, he is
yeah,
he is like awkward. He will be this awkward forever, even if he wasn't like that's just
yeah.
who so I thought it was kind of going into this, so the beginning of Into the Spider-Verse, getting back to
Yeah,
the movie.
because this is your first time seeing it, yeah?
I
The other
wanted
night?
to see it. I had been wanting, it was
Yeah.
on my list. I just hadn't gone around to watching it.
Oh, you heard that here first, folks. We got a movie off of Sam's
Yeah,
list.
oh yeah. I get to mark it off my list.
Woo!
Watch it just not watch it be on like my mental list, but not like actually,
It's not written down your actual list.
which has happened. I will be like, "Oh, and yeah, it's off my list. Let's see how many movies I have
Woo!
now."
Like 214.
No, no, more
Did
like
I price it? Did I price this right? Is it over? Did I
your
go
price is.
over?
It is. You are way over. It's well. Oh
Damn.
wait, actually, you got the numbers right, just in the wrong order.
Oh, come on.
I got
Okay,
it's
124.
yes, 124. Oh, actually, wait, I watched this thing too, so it's 123.
Okay, so
Anyway,
getting back to Spider-Man,
um,
this movie focuses on Miles Morales, who a lot of you kind of know him as like the Black Spider-Man because his spider suit is like black and red instead of like blue and red, and
when
it
you
just
said
takes
the
place.
Black Spider-Man, I forgot about his suit. I thought you meant because he's black.
Well, yeah, he's also no, he's in the movie. They explain that his dad is black and his mother is uh Mexican.
They did not
Um,
explain that at all. I figured that out through context, but I got really
yeah,
confused because he kept saying like "hasta luego," and I thought that was just his
yeah,
like thing, and then I realized, oh wait, no, his mom is clearly, whether it's
Latino, yeah,
Latino or Hispanic. Um,
yeah.
and then I
But
got
no,
yeah, keep going,
I
keep
wasn't just
going.
calling him Black Spider-Man because he is
That's
black.
what I
I just
think.
wanted to make that distinction.
That's what I was thinking. So he's not
Although
Venom.
people do
He's
know
Black
him as
Spider-Man.
that.
He's the other Spider-Man. Let's just the yeah. He's like the next
Yeah,
Spider-Man. So
yeah, yeah,
um yeah. So I got going into this. I thought based on like commercials and stuff. I thought he already was Spider-Man, and then all this stuff happens, and then he turns out he's not the only one. I think that's what the general idea I had. But no, it's just kind of the same as most of the Spider-Man movies we've seen, where normal awkward guy. So this is okay. Something that I gotta say. So we in the very beginning, oh, actually, the very beginning, if we want to go
yeah.
start the very, very
Yeah,
beginning.
okay, very, very beginning. Yeah,
So the current Spider. So basically, every time you meet a new Spider person character, they kind of do their whole little comic
origin
book
story.
spiel,
They,
origin
they,
spiel,
they
which I
yeah,
liked. I really liked
yeah,
that they did that, and it
yeah. No,
became just kind of
it
a
was a cool
joke,
style.
and it became just a kind of a joke.
Yeah,
But when they said, "You know the rest," and then they kept going, which I'm like, good, because I don't know the rest. Um, so
it's like, well, let me fill you in.
but the animation in this movie is so cool because it looks like a comic book, and
Yeah, no, and they
it's like
even do
gorgeous.
this
Like
thing where they actually did this thing where if you kind of like zoom in far enough, you see like individual dots like you would see in like old like 60s versions of like comic books. Like it was just uh perforated with dots that were different colors that eventually just turned into the picture, and you can kind of see that in like some like aspects of the movie, and it kind of shows out a few times whenever like something is like glitching. It's like the comic book is like ripping and fusing with like another comic book style, which I thought was really cool how they did that. They mixed styles. Like they had like Peter Porker, played by John Mulaney.
We'll get
Um,
there.
like, yeah. No, I also this is kind of like spoiler going into it of just like all the different like spider people, but I really liked how each spider person was like represented in like a different like art style
Oh, yeah.
from where they came from. That was like completely different to everyone else. Like John Mulaney had uh like Looney Tunes style like animation.
Mhm.
So he's very much like drawn like it kind of looked like old school like hand drawn animation, like very like rubber hose type animation. He was like very loose, very floppy. And then there was Penny Parker, who was just straight up an anime.
Anime, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and then
like
there was
yeah.
Nic Cage. Yeah, you talk about Nic Cage.
So it's I mean, get to it again, but basically,
Yeah.
Nick Cage is Spider-Man Noir from the
Yes.
1930s, and he's just very like when we first are introduced to him, they see him and his cape is blowing, and they're like, "There's no wind in here. We're out. We're in a basement. We're in like an inside." And he's like, "The wind follows me everywhere." Like,
Yeah.
which it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
perfect. But
It's just pretty much like if Spider-Man ever became Batman. That's pretty much as close as you're gonna get.
so yeah, the very very beginning. So we're introduced. Was it? This is Peter B. Parker. It's Amazing Spider-Man. Peter Parker, who is
Yeah.
the current. This is the Spider-Man of New York that everybody
Yeah.
knows. And then we meet Miles Morales, who his dad's a
Exists
cop.
in that same dimension.
Yes, same dimension. He his dad's a cop. He doesn't being a cop. He's not a big fan of Spider-Man, and um, so he so Miles is at a brand new school. He's at Brooklyn Visions Academy or something, and
Yeah. He's a smart kid.
and
He goes to school for smart kids.
I gotta say though, the the school was a boarding school, and I felt like there was really no reason for it being a boarding school.
I mean, the only reason was just probably just so he could get like kind of feel isolated and alone from
Yeah,
his parents, because having his like parents in the picture kind of makes it an odd dynamic for Spider-Man, because Spider-Man, the
usually
only
doesn't
person
have a
he had,
family.
yeah,
Or
no,
his
he
Aunt
doesn't.
May.
Yeah, he has his Aunt May, and like his whole like origin story revolves around like his Uncle Ben dying, and like the whole "great power comes great responsibility" line comes from. But with the dynamic that his parents are both still alive and very much active in his life and like very protective, especially his father being a police officer, it makes that dynamic so much more different, where he can use his parents as a crutch whenever he's like in a problem. So I really like the idea that they isolated him in a boarding school where he's alone. He has no
Okay.
friends there because no one's known him yet. He's
Yeah.
brand new there. So I
Okay.
really do think that the idea of putting him in a boarding school was a good choice to kind of make him feel a little bit more vulnerable as a character.
Okay. I just thought personally, I thought it was weird. I was just thinking like it's a boarding school in Brooklyn, and he lives in and is from Brooklyn. So I just thought
Yeah,
that was weird. Like, I mean,
that
I
is
get,
a little weird, but at the same time, it does make his character a bit more.
yeah.
Uh, uh, yeah, it just makes him more vulnerable, and I just thought that was like a really good creative choice for that.
Um, so we basically very big so he's awkward in his brand new school and whatnot, and his his dad has mentioned a couple times like, do you want to be like your Uncle Aaron, and
Yeah,
it finally clicked, and I had to look it up to make sure. So we do meet his Uncle Aaron. He sneaks out of his dorm to go hang out with him.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
and
Aaron Davis, who is portrayed by Donald Glover in Homecoming. And I
yes,
remember he
and
said, "I got a nephew living here. I don't want those weapons." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Um,
yeah. Oh, you didn't know about that
I
connection, did
I
you?
made when I made it, but then I got confused because it said Aaron Davis, and then I
Yeah,
got really mixed up because I'm like, but it's Miles Morales, so I guess he
yeah.
has his mom's last name,
Yeah.
and
So,
which is like
but
okay. I just
his but his uncle Aaron in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is portrayed by Mahershala Ali, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken.
yes,
Yeah, who
and
does a knockout performance.
I
I
mean,
absolutely loved
it's
that
Mahershala
character.
Ali, who, if you're unfamiliar, he won uh Oscars. He won 2 Oscars for Best Supporting actor in Moonlight and in Green Book.
Uh, yeah, Green Book with Viggo Mortensen, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I know my Lord of the Rings stuff.
That when I went and saw that, the whole time, all I kept thinking of is this guy deflected a sword that was coming right at him. That is all I was
Yeah.
thinking of the whole movie. Yeah, Mahershala Ali is awesome in everything he does, but uh, anyway, yeah. So
Yeah,
his
sorry.
no, no,
The
it's
the
fine.
fact that you just dropped casual Lord of the Rings trivia before me kind of baffles me. It's like, oh my god, she is learning.
Are you proud?
Are you proud of me yet, father?
I remember when we were watching Lord of the Rings and Gandalf dies, and you said, "Is he dead?" I'm like, "No, he comes back as Gandalf the White." And you were
It's like,
so proud of me. And then I told you why, where, and why I know that, and that proud was just followed by disappointment
yeah,
because I
it's
learned
like,
that from 17 again with Zac Efron. That's the only reason why
yeah,
I knew that.
yep,
Um. a-
yeah. Still
Anyway,
disappointed.
anyway,
All right, so
so
yeah,
yeah.
Mahershala Ali plays Miles Morales' uncle Aaron, and also his has a supervillain identity of the Prowler.
Or we don't
Uh,
know that yet. Um,
we do
so
eventually.
eventually, so yeah, they're hanging out, and he basically, Miles is he's an artist. He's kind of rebellious, and he likes, kind of doing like graffiti and spray paint, not
yeah,
to be a
yeah,
jerk, but just to express himself. And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's not really
it's
like
not like take that society. It's just like
yeah, no,
art.
no. It's like cool, like constructive, like graffiti artist.
Yes. And
Yeah,
his so Uncle Aaron takes him to this like little this remote place in the subway, and then what happens? A small radioactive spider starts crawling
bites him on
around.
the hand.
I wonder
Yeah,
what's coming, and then I look for it. We see it bite him, and it like shows like the venom going into his veins, and he just like, and then it
yeah,
cuts back to Miles. He just like flicks it off, which I would be like,
yeah.
"Ew, a spider just bit me." I would be somewhat concerned if I felt
Yeah,
it.
it's like also the spider that you see bite him is like very vibrantly colored, like more so than anything else in that scene. And it's like, dude, I don't know if you know this, but mostly colorful spiders are poisonous, so you might want to get that checked out. Your
Fair
mom's a
enough.
nurse, have her look at that.
Fair enough. Um. So then, the
He
next
he, he goes through like the whole like awkward
he
getting his
wakes up.
powers phase in
He wakes
every
up.
origin
He's
movie.
taller. Yeah, he's like a foot
Yeah,
taller.
no,
His pants don't fit. Oh no!
yeah,
And
no, like literally this like entire scene of like him getting his powers is like taken out of like every comic book movie who like every comic book origin movie of them just discovering their powers are just like them like like fumbling over themselves, just like weird awkward superhero puberty. It's
that
just like everyone has to go through it
so
in
he's
every
yeah,
movie.
he bumps in. So the previous day he met the cute new girl who he then bumps into, and it's Gwen Stacy, but she doesn't want to reveal her identity quite yet because we're going to find out that she is also from the other one of the other dimensions, and she's also a
Yeah,
spider person. But she's like,
she's
I'm
Spider Woman,
Gwanda.
Gwanda from South Africa.
And she's like, yes, I'm
I'm South
African,
African.
South African,
Yes,
which is like,
yes, specifically South African. She puts
and
like so much
yeah.
emphasis on that, and it's kind of funny and weird.
And so when the night before, when he and his uncle are hanging out, and he says, "Yeah, I just talked to the cute new girl," and his uncle's telling him basically a way to flirt with her is to put your hand on her shoulder and go, "Hey," which
Hey,
and he's trying to do it, and he's like, "Just do it," and then he does it, but he's missing the point. That's the way to start the conversation. You don't do it just in the middle of it. Like, what do you expect to happen? I would have, yeah. And she's just like, hi, and then just kind of walks away.
hi.
Um,
Yeah, and then because he has spider hands now and can't control
it's
his
stuck
like
to her hair.
stickiness, he like accidentally like gets her. She has to like shave her head
a
because he
part of
can't
it.
get his hands out of her hair.
It was actually cute.
Um,
I've always really liked that hairstyle, and I was watching this, and I'm like, should I do that to my hair at some point? Like, I was honestly considering that. But yeah, so
I like how this movie inspires you. It's like, I'm gonna shave half my head.
well, it's not like half, like the
I
yeah,
know, but like
like the
it.
lady in Spy Kids, but like
Oh
just
God, that is a weird visual you put in my head. Okay.
okay, so
So yeah, jumping back to where
and
he got bit, he is like, oh man, I it's like what bit me? It's like he's like reading through like all these like Spider-Man comics that his roommate has. Like, wait, is this happening to me? So it
oh,
goes back to
okay.
like where he got bit and finds the spider. And it's like, oh man, it's just a normal spider, and then it just starts glitching, like seizing out. It's like, oh, this is a normal spider. What's going on?
Really quick. So there are, I guess, there are comic books on. So somebody based made comic books based on the real Spider-Man. That's you know what I mean.
I
Like
yeah, that's the one thing I thought was confusing. Is like, wait, so does everyone just know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man in this universe? Because w- spoiler alert, he runs in Spider-Man in this, and Spider-Man gets killed by the Kingpin after he fights like
which
Green Goblin and Prowler, and like he basically gets like beat up and killed by the Kingpin. Um,
that is supposed to be Green Goblin. Okay, because I'm like he was. I mean, very different from the Willem Dafoe performance. Um,
yeah, no, well, there's a lot of different interpretations of the Green Goblin, but we'll get into that later.
so
Um,
yeah. So anyway, he
so yeah,
finds
but
a spider and then
yeah,
stumbles upon. He's kind of in the wrong place in the wrong time, and is in the middle of a battle.
huge
Spider-Man's
yeah,
fighting off.
versus
Yeah.
a roided Green Goblin who has all of his pumpkin bombs, and this isn't like Sam said, this isn't like the Willem Dafoe performance of Green Goblin. This is a very much uh like mutant Green Goblin, I think is what he's called, or like the Ultimate Green Goblin or something like that. It's basically Norman Osborn, like the mutated version of him, where he just like fully grew like wings and just like became Green Goblin like full time.
Ah, okay.
Um, I there's a lot of like weird go going ons with like Green Goblin, and I can't even keep it straight anymore. But yeah, it's green. It's basically it's Norman Osborn like fully mutated and kind of became like the lizard, but he could fly and has pumpkin bombs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
fun stuff.
So yeah, so he kind of stumbles Miles kind of stumbles into this battle gets and he Spider-Man saves him and then realizes he's like they can sense they have like their spidey senses and so
Yeah,
he's like
their spider senses tingle together. It's just like, wait, you're like me, and
you're
I'm
like
like
me.
you.
But he's like I thought it was the only one, which makes perfect sense, but I also kind of think it's not just like they were both born with superpowers and then are just
Yeah,
finding each other. I mean, Peter, they were both bit by radioactive spiders. So if it can happen to one, it can happen. I don't know. The way I'm not like that he was I wasn't it wasn't that he was surprised that there was someone else. It was just that he's like, "Whoa, you're like me. I thought it was the only." I don't know. The statement for me just seemed very based on the situation. It's like it could happen to someone else. Like when
I
you
mean,
really think
yeah,
about it. I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
there's definitely weirder stuff that goes on in like Spider-Man's world where it's like, yeah, that like you can put that on the back burner. It's like, yeah, could there be other spider people? Probably. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
check. Probably not.
So he basically
Yeah.
says like I'll help you out. You're going to be okay and then the fight just doesn't
That
go
doesn't
well
happen.
and
Yeah. And
he
Kingpin just straight up
or
murks Spider-Man
or
in front of Miles.
or really quickly he gives him so he's kind of beaten down and Spider-Man gives Miles the hard drive that can shut down. What was the
The
machine again? What was that called again?
the dimensional collider or
So,
something like that.
and Peter, during his fight with Green Goblin, his head got stuck in it for just a second. So he knows what Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk, when he said Kingpin, I was like, oh, like, I will say with stuff that's come out in the last couple of years, so like Kingpin slash Wilson Fisk is the main villain in Daredevil, and
Yeah.
and then like basically all of these references were definitely if you've seen stuff in the last couple of years you'll be fine. So I
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
like,
I mean, yeah, they definitely like put like all the big names are out right now of like who's villain and who's hero is to which villain.
and anyway, so yeah, Spider-Man basically says, I know what you're trying to do. It is not, it's not worth it. It's not gonna work. It's not worth it.
It's
And
not going to bring them
it's
back.
not gonna
He's
bring
like
back,
being very yeah, he's being very cryptic with like what it is. He's like we know like
which I
they both
liked.
know. It's like can you fill us in,
And
audience? Can
actually
you
I
fill in
liked
the
it
audience in?
because when we did finally figure it out, it all made sense. But Kingpin kills him. He just like
Yeah.
he just like, oh man, he also has terrible posture and is very hunched over. That's just, I noticed that the
Yes.
whole movie. Because he's
Yes.
like super giant. But then they hear Miles makes a sound. They see it's him. So Kingpin sends the Prowler after him, and then
Which happens to be his uncle,
which,
but
or he finds that
neither
out
one of
later,
them know
yeah.
that. Yeah,
But
no one knows that.
but Miles he manages to escape him. He gets home, and then it's all over the news. Spider-Man's dead. Spider-Man's dead. And
And
then,
Spider-Man is Peter Parker.
and yeah, Peter Parker, 26, and his wife, Mary Jane. I was like, oh. And then,
It's like,
um,
oh, they got married.
I was like,
Yay!
oh, that's
I'm
nice.
happy for them.
And
Yeah. I
then
mean, now you're dead, but yeah.
there's like basically like funeral sessions and all that, and
Yeah.
he,
Oh, real quick
yeah,
before like Miles like goes like this like huge like memorial, he goes to a comic book
oh
store and buys. This actually like when I first saw this in theaters, this kind of like almost made me tear up a little bit.
yeah,
He goes into a comic book store and buys like a Spider-Man
Spider-Man costume,
costume, and the guy he buys it from is Stan Lee, and it's like I'm gonna miss him. It's like we're gonna miss you too because this was like his last cameo like before he died, and it's just oh
and
man,
but it was
it
also
hit
just sweet. He's
it,
like, I was friends with him, and I was like, oh.
it's like we know you were Stan,
It made
we
me
know,
think of
but
when, yeah, sorry, you go.
yeah it just it hit like weird it like I remember like being like really sad when I heard about Stanley's death, and it was like really a sad moment because like he affected so many people's lives
Hmm.
throughout all these years, throughout all of Marvel and like everything that he's done. And then when I saw this in theaters and I saw that cameo, like I knew it was coming and I knew he was going to be in this movie at some point, but like the way that they delivered it and like coincided it with Spider-Man's death in this movie, like there were too many parallels, and it just like, oh god, that's we're gonna miss you too, Stan. And there was a very touching like quote and in memory of
Oh,
Stanley at
at
like the
the
very end of the
yeah,
movie, and it was just this movie was for Stan. Even though it came out after he had died, and it
mhm.
was a very fitting tribute and a good, solid cameo for him.
Which I gotta say, because it's animated, and this is the second time this has happened. Because it's animated, I completely forget about the Stan Lee cameo. I feel like every Marvel movie, I know there's gonna be a Stan Lee cameo. I just always forget about it, and
You
so
Stanley just sneaks up on you.
pretty much. And but I think it made me think of when he made a cameo in Big Hero 6, and we're all
Oh
like,
yeah,
ah! It's like a quick, like, you go to Fred's house and you see a portrait
it's his dad.
of his parents, and it's the dad, and we are like, of course, there's still gonna be a Stanley cameo in this movie.
Yeah. And
Actually,
then he shows up at like the end of the movie, like acts like talks to like Fred is like, "Hey, when in doubt, inside out." And he's like talking about like his like underwear or something like
that's
that.
gross. That was gross.
It's like it's gross, but it's good to have you, Stan.
um, so
Always good to see you.
yeah, Spider-Man's dead. Everything's bad, and he's wearing the costume now all the time because Spider-Man basically said, "I'm gonna help you out," and he died. He just, I think, feels more alone and more terrified than ever. And he goes to his
His
tombstone,
grave.
his grave,
Yeah.
and who shows up? Peter Parker,
Peter Parker.
but this one has brown hair and has a
Yeah.
gut and is different. And then we get the whole, so there's this whole crazy chase because the police they just see a kid in a Spider-Man costume with a body, so they think that he's dead. And so he's trying to get, but he doesn't know how to use his powers, and so he's kind of he's relying on the half conscious Spider-Man to get them out. And
Yeah,
And
because
yeah,
Miles accidentally discovers that one of his powers is taser hands. He can accidentally, like, touch people and, like, electrocute them with his, like, fingertips.
he has a lot of powers in this that
Yeah, yeah. No, Miles kind of gets like a weird upgrade because he gets like two additional powers that Spider-Man doesn't have, and that's the electric hands and invisibility. He can kind of turn himself invisible on command, and that kind of have like this like adaptive camouflage that some spiders have.
um yeah, that was, I'm like, that's useful. That's super
Yeah,
useful. Um so then he uh yeah, so he saves Peter, and basically we
he,
find out that this is Peter Parker in from a different dimension, who everything was going great, and then it basically all
everything.
started sucking.
y- Yeah,
He
like
and
he got
his
a divorce from
Mary
Mary Jane.
Jane,
His
and
his
living a
Aunt May
sad life on
died,
his
and
own.
yeah, yeah.
Wait, who?
He starts like he's like overweight and has like this really like odd dad bod going.
Yeah. It's
Like
not
this like
bad. They keep pointing out, I'm like, he's not that bad. It's not that bad of shape. I think it was just
well
more of a
compared to
joke because his cost suit doesn't really fit that well. But he also, it got kind of it kind of got separated from him when he was brought into this other dimension. So he has to wear sweatpants.
yeah.
um.
He's wearing sweatpants, and at one point he's wearing two different shoes. Like
Oh
one's
yeah.
literally like a sneaker, and one's like a work boot. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, he looks like a hobo, and he's got like this like brown like tattered trench coat, and he's like all like disheveled and like unshaved and like unclean. It's just like this is Hobo Spider Man. That's
Hobo
what I'm
Spider
always
Man.
gonna call him now. Is
Um.
Hobo Spider Man.
So he does not want anything to do with what Miles is mixed up in. He just kind of wants to, like, yeah, I don't know. He doesn't want to be involved. He's just done.
Yeah, he's the Spider-Man who gave up hope because pretty much like everything in his life has like given up on him or is gone now. So it's like there's really no point. I kind of just do this because it's the only thing I have left now. And it's like I just want to get home. So he like takes like the flash drive that can like kind of can turn on and off the uh uh dimensional collider, and it's like but during their process of like that chase scene, it gets destroyed. So it's like, oh man, now we got to break into the lab and like re-download everything, and then that whole thing happens of them running into this dimension's version of Doctor Octopus.
So they get to this lab and sneak in, and Peter, of course, what's happening? He can't really use his powers. He doesn't really know how to use them. He can't unstick to things. He'll just turn invisible, and it'll be, yeah, this is great, and then he'll be uninvisible when he shouldn't be.
Whenever it's
Um,
convenient,
so
yeah.
it turns out that
Whenever it's not convenient.
this woman, that Miles, I mean, recognizes. He's like, oh yeah, she is some video we watched in my class. And turns out she is Doc Ock in this universe, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and she basically she's working for Kingpin, trying to get the machine to work. Um,
Yeah.
and when I'm trying to think of when we learn, so Kingpin's trying to bring his wife and son back.
And
They
because
watched
yeah,
him trying to kill somebody.
they watched him fighting Spider-Man and like try
Oh,
to kill him, and they like it's like Wilson, what are you doing? It's like Vanessa, it's like whatever his son's name is,
Rich.
but
They
like
said it later.
they
They said Richard, which
oh yeah,
I'm like,
Vanessa and Richard.
oh, Vanessa, because Vanessa is the woman that he has a relationship with in Daredevil. And I
Yeah,
thought when they had a son, I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, I literally was thinking, I wonder if the son becomes somebody. Wouldn't that be interesting? Does he become a villain? Does he become a hero? And then no, because they die in
yeah.
a
In
car
this movie, they
accident.
die. I honestly don't remember if like the son of the Kingpin ever like becomes a thing in the comics because admittedly, I don't know that much about the Kingpin.
Yeah.
I mostly know about him from like Daredevil and like Punisher, like the shows on Netflix,
Mhm.
and the like '90s like animated Spider-Man movie, which is on like Disney Plus right now for some reason.
Yeah. None of the other Spider-Man movies are like I mean, Homecoming isn't there, but yeah, all the animated ones
Yeah,
are, which I think is
yeah, no,
interesting.
yeah. Which honestly, that's kind of like a weird power move because like I know like Disney has like the distributing rights for like Marvel TV, so they have like the licensing rights for Spider-Man through that. But they also somehow have like all like the 90s and like even earlier than that, like they have like Spider-Man and Friends from like the 70s, I think, on Disney Plus. It's like I'm pretty sure you don't have the rights to like how do you have the rights to that? Like they had nothing like as far as I know, Disney had nothing to do with those earlier Spider-Man cartoons, and yet they're all on Disney Plus for
There are
some
some
reason.
movies that are there that I don't know why they're there, and a couple I know are Fox, so I'm like, okay, sure. But
Yeah,
then there's some that aren't Fox and aren't Disney, which I'm like, I'm not against it being here. I just don't understand why it's here. But anyway,
yeah,
um,
yeah. But
so
yeah,
they
they
are
they
trying to
managed to
escape.
like
They're trying to escape from this
yeah, they
place. Who?
they
Sorry.
just instead of just steal like downloading everything, they just steal the whole computer and
Yeah,
just alert the
and the
entire.
monitor and everything. And then Peter's like, "Oh
He
yeah,
just
we don't need the
unplugs
monitor."
everything. He's like runs like, hold on, let me take a bagel real quick. It's like, quick, stop him! He took a bagel. Like that's the thing that like I just thought that was really funny that like all the scientists are like alerted to that like Spider-Man's on the premises after like literally seeing him and like Miles in the break room. It's like they're not trying to like stop him because like they're there because they have the computer. I just like the fact that one of the scientists like stop him. He has a bagel.
I gotta go back. I remember that scene. I do not remember that line.
Yeah, and there's like kind of like a blink and you miss a moment, but like as they're running away, like Miles like looks back and throws the bagel at like the
Oh
scientist,
yeah,
and as it makes contact with like the scientist's head, instead of like pow or like bam, like all those like kind of like Adam West like Batman sound effects
yeah,
things like show up, it says bagel over his
yeah,
head,
yeah.
like it like it's like instead like him getting punched, it just says bagel.
Um,
It's like that was
yeah,
just really funny, and I just like kind of wanted to point that out.
that was funny. It does that the whole. I mean, pretty much. Yeah, have like screams or like
Yeah,
what or
th-
whatever, and it does that, which I really like. Yeah, bagel. I thought
yeah,
that was yeah.
yeah.
So they're
This whole movie is just full of like visual gags
it's
and
like
like
it's a
randomly.
visual, it's a moving comic book. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. But yeah, as they're like escaping, they is like get all like tied up by like a bunch of webs in the tree. It's like, wait, this isn't for me. This isn't for me. It's like, who did this? And in comes Spider Gwen or Spider Woman, from another dimension, and
so this is the
beats the crap out of.
same Gwen he met in class, and we find out she basically was comes from the other dimension, and she said like something told her or whatever, she sent like she was some reason she knew that she has to go to the school that
Yeah, her
Miles is at. And
yeah her spider sense is like it's like, oh, I better go into hiding, and like it kept like my spider senses kept telling me to go to this school, and
so
because I
in
got blown into last week.
this in her universe, she was Spider Woman, and Peter Parker is her best friend, and he
Who turns
dies.
into lizard and dies.
He turns into a lizard.
Yeah, yeah. In
They didn't say that.
Amazing Spider,
Not in
in
this.
like
They didn't
her
say that.
in her flashback, you see like his like silhouette turn into like the lizard, and
Oh,
this is like a pre-established like fact in her like origin story is
okay,
that Peter Parker just straight up turns into the lizard and dies.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
So
because I know in Amazing Spider-Man 2, spoiler alert, that he can't save Gwen and Gwen dies. So I was
yeah,
like, oh, okay. But so
yeah,
yeah, that's kind of her backstory, and they get back, they decide where are they gonna go? They go to Aunt May's house, so where Peter grew up. Which I gotta say, with this and with Homecoming, the last couple of Aunt Mays have been super cool. Like they're
yeah,
badass and they're tough. Because I mean, Tobey Maguire's Aunt May, like, I mean, she's really like
she
sweet and adorable, but like I guess she hits the banker who's trying to steal money after Doc Ock is trying to break into the
yeah,
bank. But like
but
other than
also
that,
she's like 70 years old. It's like,
I
wait,
know.
this is supposed to be your mother's sister. How old
I,
was your mother
wait,
when she had you?
I thought it was Dad's brother.
Well, regardless, yeah, it's
I
like
mean,
you,
either way. Yeah.
yeah, either or, but like it's like how old were your parents? It's like
It's like
I
they're
get that you're
related to the Waynes, who are really old and had a really young kid.
yeah,
um
apparently
um but anyway, so I will
Yeah,
say
they
every
go
time
there.
something happened, I was literally wondering. I was like, "What?" And then it was quickly explained, which I really appreciated. So they get to her house, and she sees Peter, and he's like, "This is gonna sound weird," and she's like, "You're from another dimension." He's like,
It's like,
"Um,
okay, well, that's weird now.
oh, okay." And I'm like, "Why does she know this?" Because so I guess Peter, first of all, has a super cool like basement. It's like
He has a
the iron.
spider
He has like
cave.
a. It's like Iron Man level kind of like okay, like all his stuff is down in his like this little shed behind the house, and who else is there? All the other Spider people. So you have Penny
Yeah,
Parker, Spider Ham, and Spider Man Noir.
Peter. Yeah, Peter
Which
Parker.
I
Yeah,
gotta
Spider-Man
say, I
Noir.
really hope maybe not right away, but at some point, I feel like a movie on Spider Gwen or Spider Man Noir. I want it now because I
Well, there is a animated series on, I think it's like on Disney like XD or something like that, but it's on Disney Plus called like Secret Warriors or something like that, and like one of the main characters is Spider Gwen in that, and there's
okay.
like a couple episodes that like are like where she's like the main focus, and it's like some of the other characters are like Patriot, which is like kind of like the protege to Captain America, uh, Squirrel Girl.
What? What?
She's a legit superhero, and at one point she did beat Thanos. I kid you not. Her powers are she can talk to squirrels and control squirrels, and has the like super like athletic, and like has like all these like athletics skills.
Did this all?
I
Is she
forget.
get this? Did she get her squirrel abilities after being attacked by squirrels in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory?
I don't remember how she got her powers, but I'm pretty sure that's not it.
um,
But yeah, I kid you not, there is a superhero called Squirrel Girl, and at one point she beat Thanos. I don't know how she did
that
that.
sounds like
All I
a
know is
fake
that she beat her to
superhero. That sounds like a superhero on like in like the universe of Arthur, like Squirrel
it.
Girl.
No.
What?
Yeah, okay. I know what you mean, but at the same time, it's like I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah, no. Yeah, Rising Secret Warriors. I'm like looking at that right now. Yeah, the Squirrel Girl, like Miss, no, Miss Marvel or something like that. But
yeah.
yeah, they're like all in that.
Okay. I feel like we've had this. You told me something about Squirrel Girl and Thanos. I feel like something about that sounds familiar, but okay.
Probably. I'm like I honestly don't remember how that happened, but I remember hearing or like reading about that like oh like so like top 10 heroes that beat Thanos, like number 3 Squirrel Girl is like wait what. How did that happen?
So not Ant-Man defeating him Thanos style. I
Oh,
didn't.
we are not talking about that one.
We will when we get to
No,
Endgame.
I am
But
not opening up that can of worms. No,
um
thank you.
so anyway,
Or that can of ants.
we
But
meet
tis.
all of the other spider people. Oh, and so Penny Parker, she's from like the future, and she has a telepathic connection with a radioactive spider that's in a robot, and they fight
Yes.
crime. And we talked about Spider Ham and Spider Man Noir, and so Spider
Yeah.
Ham actually it's super funny. I recommend.
Yeah.
So John Mulaney is Spider Ham, and he was on the Tonight
Yes.
Show. And he was promoting the movie, and he was
Yeah,
saying
I remember
they.
this.
So
Yes.
they didn't tell him because it's Marvel. They didn't tell him anything. He literally said they just said we can't send you a script or tell you anything about the project. And he's like, so I arrived at a building, and I mean, he's like, honestly, he was worried it was a kidnapping, but
Yeah.
he said that he basically just recorded, and they just told him to have fun, and he was just being John, like he was just
Casually swearing.
swearing and like, and then he's like,
Yeah, yeah. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't bother telling him that this movie was rated PG.
so he had a line where he said like talking to, where I guess he would have been talking to Miles, saying, "You've been Spider-Man for 2 days. I've been Spider-Ham for 30 fucking years." And I guess he said that um he said he was like, "What's this rated?" And they're like, "PG." Like, oh, so not one thing I've done said is usable.
No, but that was hilarious. Keep going.
um yeah, so we're both huge John Mulaney fans. That's
Yeah.
not clear. So yeah, his voice, and then Nic Cage's voice, both of them just it was just a delight.
Yeah. I'm just glad that Nick Cage was able to kind of like get out of the shadow of Ghost Rider and reprise a good superhero role. And I'm just waiting for like them to like bring him over to DC because he was originally going to be a Superman in a Tim Burton
Oh
movie.
yes, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember that
It's like okay, now we just need to somehow manage to get him from Marvel to DC. How do we do that? Decisions,
somehow. Yeah.
decisions.
So they all decide. They basically right away. They're all like, they're all. So I want to say one thing that I did notice. I was like, there's no explanation for it. Why is it only spider people got sent to
Because
this dimension?
Spider-Man was like in the beginning of the movie when like the dimensional collider was on, Norman Osborn or Green Goblin like kind of was like holding Spider-Man, like trying to choke him and put his head into the collider,
Oh,
like he crossed the streams with Spider-Man and it read his DNA and it was supposed to extract people with like similar DNA. So basically just extracted a bunch of like spider people throughout the
okay,
multiverse and threw them here because the
okay.
original plan for this collider was to bring Kingpin's family back using like their DNA that he had from like hair like left over from when they
Right.
were still alive.
Okay, because I was like, I mean, couldn't have anyone been sent through? Like, I was like, why is
Uh,
this? Okay, okay, that makes more sense.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Anyone as long as they touch the collider beam.
So basically, all of the he basically they're all aware of the situation. Somebody has to basically send them home. And Miles is
Yeah,
like, "Well, I'm from here. Obviously, it'll be me." And they can't stay there for too long. They didn't run with this as much as I felt like they should. They like how so Peter Parker right at the beginning realized, oh, like his body, his DNA, it's not really mixing well with this dimension.
yeah.
And so
They're basically like their cells are like slowly like dying and they're like glitching out and like every time they glitch out like it's kind of like
they didn't
they
glitch
they
out a
get
lot though. It only happened a
yeah
couple times.
yeah well it happens a few times in like the final battle because it's like they've been there for so long but
Yeah, I
yeah
felt I don't know. I forgot about it kind of. It
yeah, but
didn't.
they as they like glitch out, they're like every time you see them glitch out, like all of their like art and like body parts just like drastically changed like 20 different things in like the matter of like 10 seconds. Like, oh my god, that is horrifying to look at, but also so cool. Like, do that
Yeah,
again. that
but so
it's like sorry that's happening, but that's
Yeah.
really cool to look at.
So they're all suddenly like, "Oh my, well, can you do this? Can you do this?" Because he's had the powers for like less than 2
2 days.
days, and
Oh no, yeah. At this point,
and
he's
they
only
just
had him
start
for
like
like a day.
basically beating him up, like, "Oh, can you do this? Are you able to do this?" And it's like, it's been 2 days. No, he can't. But I thought they were just like shitting on him kind of for it, like, "Are you able to do this? Are you able to do this?" It's like I think it's very clear. No, he can't. But he's basically the only hope if you want to all go home. Which
Yeah,
I guess they kind of the backup is Peter Parker will stay behind and everyone
yeah,
else will go home because
because he's like
he doesn't want to go home.
yeah. Yeah, it's like a suicide. It's definitely like a suicide plan if him because if he stays. But at this point, he's like got at this point in his life, he doesn't really have anything to go back to go home because like Aunt May's dead. He's divorced from Mary Jane, and according to him, like he thinks that like his world would be okay without a Spider-Man. Like they would still like push forward. They would still survive.
Yeah. Um.
Um,
So
but yeah, before they can even decide that,
Miles leaves.
Miles discovers that his uncle
Oh,
is the Prowler, and he accidentally leads them back to Aunt May's
oh.
house along with a bunch of Kingpin's henchmen.
So we're actually sorry really quick. Miles leaves, and he then goes to it, his uncle's house, and basically he's writing him this note, kind of freaking out, like, "Oh my gosh, I have this thing I got to do. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it," and just kind of freaking out. And then he sees
In
the
in
Prowler,
comes the Prowler.
freaks out, hides, and then the Prowler. I honestly was wondering if maybe the Prowler was. At first I'm like, what if the Prowler is Miles from an alternate dimension? Like there's another version of him that's evil, and then then it's I don't know. That's kind of what I was thinking. And then he takes off the mask, and then it made it clear, like, oh, it's gonna be Aaron. And then he takes off the mask, and
Yeah.
I was like, I literally gasped. I was like, like no way. Um, um, you could
But yeah,
imagine. Um,
yeah, he sees that and then he like runs back, but is unaware that his uncle is chasing. Well, I mean, he chases him, but he thought he lost him, so he accidentally leads them back to Aunt May's house with all the other Spider-Men.
And they're all
And
fighting. Aunt
yeah,
May's like, "Can't you guys do this outside?" And they won't listen. So then she just beats up one of the uh
yeah, she goes toe to toe with Scorpion with a like a broom or a shovel. And it's like, oh my god,
and
this anime is a badass.
basically Prowler gets a hold of Miles, and Miles takes off the mask, and he basically Aaron wasn't gonna do it. He wasn't gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And then
So
Kingpin shoots
Kingpin
him.
shoots Prowler instead.
Yeah.
Yay!
And
Origin story.
he then just gets him, so Miles gets him out of there, and they're in this alley. And then what happens? So all cops are on their way already. And then a cop, who is it? Of course, it's Miles's dad, and he sees a person Spider-Man in an alley, and then he leaves. And what? It's the body of his brother.
It's like,
So he thinks he's the killer.
curse you, Spider-Man.
And then the rest of them, they all meet up, and they're in his dorm room, and they're all like, we've all been through this. We are the only ones that can possibly understand what you're going through. Then his roommate shows up, and they all hide together on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And
which was really funny. And then John Mulaney is like, do animals talk in this universe? Because I don't want to freak him out. And then the dude just immediately faints after seeing them, and he hears the pig talking.
And then they all decide, they basically put the roommate to bed, and they all decide, like, Miles, you're sitting this out. You're not capable.
You're not ready.
of this. Which I felt like that's clear that he's not ready, but I don't know. It seemed kind of like it kind of just. I knew, yes, he's not ready, but I felt like there needed to. I don't know. I felt like there needed to be kind of. To me, that wasn't hadn't happened to get to that decision. They all wanted to leave mine anyway, but I felt like something else needed to happen that was clear that he wasn't ready, because he hadn't specifically done anything that made it clear he wasn't ready, other than that he's upset that his uncle died, which is like, you know what I mean? So that kind of bothered me. But they all
like, congratulations, you had an origin story death happen to you.
So they all decide to leave, and Peter is like, can you, and Miles like, no, I want to help, I'm ready. And he's like, no, you're not. Can you do anything on your own? No, he can't. And then he's like, basically told him, he's like, it's just simply a leap of faith. That is all it is.
Yeah.
And you don't have it, you're not doing it, so you can't come, you're gonna get yourself killed.
So they web him up to his chair, and then his dad shows up and like knocks on his door, and it's like, basically tells him, it's like, your uncle's dead, I'm here for you, like, I see this spark in you, like, you have what it takes, like, I'm proud of you, son, I love you. And it's like, and he basically just like gives him like this really like heartfelt speech, and he leaves, and this like inspires Miles to like get out of there, and goes into like one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Which is the leap of faith, where he like goes to Aunt May's house, gets like a costume, personalizes it to like make it look like for him, and then jumps off of a building, does like his whole web shooter thing. It's like, oh, I'm finally getting the hang of this. And it's like, it's such a cool scene. And it's like, honestly, if you haven't seen the movie, just look up Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse Leap of Faith on YouTube right now. Pause this podcast. We'll wait.
Yeah. Also, I gotta say,
like, it's like sound, 3 minutes, and it's good.
I gotta say though, this soundtrack for this movie is great. It really is. It is a lot of rap, but it works.
It fits.
It's kind of like how there's a lot of rap in Black Panther. Like it works. It makes perfect sense, and it's just really.
Wait, there's rap in Black Panther.
I mean, rap.
Oh no! Wait, I'm thinking of Pink Panther for some reason. For some reason, I don't know why. I had a brain fart, and I was thinking, like, no, wait,
those are
like,
very different.
It's like, no, that's called jazz, Sam.
I mean, jazz rap,
like jazz rap, they're the same thing, right?
I mean, isn't jazz? I remember when like Gatsby came out, and there were people that were mad because there was like hip hop and like rap on like the soundtrack. And I remember one of my friends was like, well, jazz then is kind of like rap now, kind of in that. No way, I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Anyway.
I honestly have no horse in that race. I'm here to talk about movies.
Anyway.
My resume is just movies, not music.
Just that's just on your resume. Just movies. Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's like you're hired.
so there's a couple. I don't know. There's a couple songs in this movie that I really liked and that stuck out for me. And this was one of
Yeah,
them. And so Miles catches up
like
with the other
with
spider people.
who are
Um,
like currently like infiltrating like Kingpin's like gala event that he's holding in memory of Spider-Man. It's like, yo, me and him were like really good friends. Like, oh, you son of a, all right.
and who all of the waiters are dressed as Spider-Man, and they're all like, "Are you? Wow,
Like,
this is this easy." Which I gotta say, they say that it's easy, and it is. No one really suspects anything, but it's
it's
not
like
like any of them are dressed. Only Peter Parker is just like the regular Spider-Man. All of them are, and maybe Peter Porker. Everyone else is just,
yeah.
like,
Also, I think they're hiding. I think they're hiding Peter Porker like in the dish tray
oh no,
because I don't see.
because yeah, Penny Parker and her robot are
Yeah, they're
underneath the like
yeah they're
underneath like a food
yeah
cart.
they're they're pretending to be a food cart that has like a tablecloth over it, and I don't know where Peter Porker is, so I just assumed he's in the dinner tray that Peter Parker's holding the whole time.
So Peter gets distracted because Mary Jane is there, and she walks right up to him and says, we need more breadsticks." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I should have been there for you for the with the breadsticks, like
Yeah,
when you needed
he's
them."
like he's totally like preaching to her like it's like I'm so sorry I was there for you. It's like I know you wanted breadsticks, even though it's like the reason why he divorced from his Mary Jane was she wanted kids and he didn't.
Or he said
Uh,
he was scared, which
but
I feel like makes kind of sense because in his line of work, you know,
yeah,
um,
and there actually is some like good reason why Spider-Man should not have kids because oh, this is a really weird thing that they added in the comics, but um one of the reasons why you don't see like a lot of mention like Spider-Man like having kids or like the children of Spider-Man or stuff like that is because
they die
um
or something, like they can't survive.
no, yes and no, but he can't have kids because the person that like the woman that would like have them would not survive it because his material is radioactive and
Oh,
pretty much causes
oh,
cancer and
oh
kills them
no!
before a baby comes to full term. And it's like, why did you feel the need to include this?
What? Can't it just what? Can't it just be like Incredible style? You have a baby and then
They have
they have
superpowers.
powers. Oh my god, that's horrible.
Yeah, seriously, that's more horrible than the man spider thing, where like Spider-Man like uh his spider powers start mutating a bit more, so he starts becoming more spider than man. Like he literally grows like an extra set of limbs, and it's like
Ew. I want
he
to
grow
see that.
he
Gross.
he literally has like I wanted to say like 6 arms at one point,
Ew. It's like the
and the
fly.
yeah, and then the Punisher has to help fight him off because there's like a bounty on his head or something. There's like a weird thing
What?
going on at the same
Oh
time
my
of him like
god.
mutating.
The storyline. Oh my god,
Yeah,
that's ew.
just
This
just look up like it's in like the 90s Spider-Man series on Disney Plus. I'm plugging that a lot right now for some reason, but it keeps coming up. But he literally starts turning into like a human spider.
I'm just thinking I'm like the first Spider-Man movie when he goes to the like wrestling cage thing and like
Yeah.
I'm the human spider.
Yeah, and I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies because one, they're directed by Sam Raimi, and I love his work in like the Evil Dead movies with like him and Bruce Campbell. And I really love the fact that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are such good
When I
bros.
type
That's
humans when I type Spider-Man human spider, the first thing that comes up is just him in his sad costume.
yeah, his you mean his iconic wrestling costume?
Yes.
Yeah, but I love the fact that like Sam Raimi and like Bruce Campbell have been like best bros for like this
Ew,
entire time.
no. Found a
Oh my
picture.
god, stop interrupting me,
Mutation. It
Sam.
just says mutation disease, and it's the spider. Oh man, ew,
Yeah, yeah.
ew. Okay,
Google that one, folks. But yeah, I just love the fact that like Sam Raimi just includes Bruce Campbell in like all of the Spider-Man movies.
oh god, okay, okay.
Yeah, that's the only thought that I was trying to get out.
So anyway, they are they infiltrate they successfully infiltrate the ball party, whatever that Kingpin is throwing, and then I just
They make their way down to like
yes,
the collider, and it's a trap. Doc Ock's there, and Scorpion's there, and Tombstone's there.
and then
Literally everyone but uh, uh, Hobgoblin or Green Goblin for some reason is there.
um so everything basically they're fighting it off, and everyone above is feeling it. Everything's like crazy, and
Yeah,
everyone's
because
freaking
the
out.
collider.
It seems kind of like everyone thinks it's just like an earthquake where
Yeah,
weird
but
other things are happening.
yeah, the collider basically just like starts slowly fusing all the dimensions together, and it's like a really cool, like trippy kind of visual like thing that they're doing of like combining like all these like different things that are just like all these different like visual like animation elements that are just widely different styles, and it's really cool to see
And they
because they're
even
literally
acknowledge
just
that. They're like, "This is terrible. Like, it's cool, but it's like." Um,
it's like this is really cool to watch but terrible for it to happen.
then Miles shows up, and they're all fighting Doc Ock and King, and basically
Scorpion and
Scorpion. And
Tombstone.
and then unfortunately, the Penny Parker's the robot starts to malfunction and basically dies.
No, it
Because
doesn't
Scorpio,
malfunction. Scorpion just straight up just
yeah.
destroys that
But then
robot.
the spider comes out, and I'm like, oh well, isn't the spider the thing that she has the connection with? So
Yeah,
what's
the
isn't
spider
that?
was just controlling the robot.
And so she's like, oh, she's crying, which I'm like, I get why you're sad, but you have the spider, so I think you can fix this.
Yeah,
Um, but
but yeah, so
they
yeah,
and then
they're all fighting, and
I gotta say
they
really quick.
manage to like. I was like, oh, I got the goober working. I got the flash drive, and
Oh,
he plugs it in, and he gets like everyone back home. But like Peter Parker's like, no, you can't fight Kingpin on your own. It's like you'll die. It's like, no, I can't let Spider Man die. It's like neither can I. So he like like finally convinces him to like go back to his home. It's like, how do I know I'm making the right choice? You don't. It's a leap of faith, and then he like
they're like,
throws him in his own
ah.
dimension. It's
Um,
like, not bad, kid.
I gotta say, Peter Porker riding on Spider-Man Noir's back. It just kind of reminded me of like when Rocket and uh Winter Soldier
Groot.
team up
Oh yeah,
in in Infinity War. Just kind of maybe or Thor, I guess. I don't know any of Rocket and any of them really, but it just I don't know. That was just the image I was having when I was watching that. But anyway, yeah. So everybody goes back
yeah,
to their dimension, and now it's just Miles versus Kingpin, and
yeah.
uh,
They're fighting through like this like chaotic like a maelstrom that the colliders created, and then they end up fighting in like this subway that just shows up out of nowhere because like all these like buildings and cars keep showing up, and as they're fighting in the subway, he has like Miles like pinned up against the wall, and it's like about to kill him basically in like a similar fashion that he was going to kill Spider-Man when his wife and son saw him, and a bunch of versions of his wife and son in the subway car see him, and then they run away in terror of like, what has my husband become? And it's like, now this Kingpin is blaming the Spider-Man. Is like, no, you took my family away from me. I have nothing now. I'm gonna kill you.
also, side note, while this is going on, so Miles's dad, uh, he's answering. He was being a first responder, and he's in
Yeah,
the building, and he's watching all this, and he hated, wasn't a big fan of Spider-Man. Also, thinks Spider-Man killed his brother, and then is
yeah,
watching this fight, and he's just like, "Come on, come on!" And then Miles is aware that his dad's watching, and definitely that's
yeah,
something that helps. And oh yeah, so Kingpin tries to like smash him the way he did Spider-Man in the beginning, and
yeah.
he doesn't
He, which,
die.
yeah, it's like it doesn't kill him, and it just like is like he kind of like has like the surge of like inspirational music. It's like, the one thing about Spider-Man is like no matter how many times you get knocked down, no matter how many times you get beat, Spider-Man always gets back up. And then it's like he gets up and like puts his like hand on like Kingpin, is like, hey, the shoulder touch move? Is like, what? Hey, and then he electrocutes him.
That was great. That was a nice tie-in.
Yeah, and that causes like the whole collider to like short out and explode, and he saves the entire multiverse. Hooray! And he calls his dad and rekindles that relationship, and then hugs him as
And then
Spider-Man
as
and tells him,
Spider-Man,
"I
he's
love
like,
you."
he has like a whole little like deep voice. He's like, "Sir, gonna be good working with you," and he hugs him and he's like, "I love you," and he's like, "Wait, what?" And then he just leaves. And then
Yeah,
we're seeing, life's better, and he now is forced to befriend his roommate who, saw him with a bunch of other Spider-Man, which I kind
yeah.
of thought, I'm surprised they didn't try to. I mean, I'm all for that, fine. I just thought, like, I'm surprised they didn't try to convince him, like, no, it was weird. They were just
It
hanging out, or
it
I don't know, trying to come up with some lame excuse. He's just like, no,
it
whatever.
was all a dream because you were reading too many comic books.
Which I was like wondering, is this gonna be? It's like, oh, is it like Ned from Homecoming and Far Away
I guess so. I honestly don't know who that character is because I don't know Miles Morales is like
storyline? Yeah,
I don't know like his whole like backstory or like origin aside from this movie that
I
well.
only hope because everybody deserves a Ned. Ned's a
Seriously,
Ned's a that's a an
it's a
amazing,
homie.
beautiful specimen.
You
um,
okay,
no, just like
odd way to
in his
put it, but
no, in
true.
his like I just like the in his loyalty to his friend, and the part where he's trying to track him and track fa- uh Vulture in Homecoming, and the teacher comes in.
Yeah,
Why are you in here? There's a school dance. He's just
it's
like,
like it's like
I'm watching
I'm watching
porn.
porn. It's like, all right,
Um,
go
but
for it, bud.
so yeah, everything's going a lot better now, and he's finally kind of embraced it. And then while I'm watching this, I get a text from you saying, "By the way, there's post credit scenes." And it's like, of course there is. Um,
Yeah,
so and so the in the very beginning, the Spider-Man that we meet, the first one, the one who dies, is Chris Pine, is the voice actor, and
yeah,
the one that we're with the rest of the movie is Jake Johnson. And I knew Jake Johnson was in this movie, but when I'm like, this is Chris Pine. This is clearly Chris Pine. And then we meet the
yeah,
next one. I'm like, okay, now it sounds like Jake Johnson. I was so mixed up because there's all these different Spider-Man that they all have different voices, so I had to look like, okay.
yeah,
So I guess the basically all of them made it back home, and
yeah,
it's not the end of them. But I'm like, also like, so is this Spider-Man, this version Spider-Man, also we're gonna get? I felt like
yeah.
it was an interesting uh post credit scene because I felt like it
Yeah,
was, I don't know,
the post credit scene the post credit scene I think it's supposed to be like Spider-Man like 2047. It's basically like Spider-Man from the future. It's like
oh
that
right
version.
right
It's like that version like Peter Parker of like Spider-Man's like all grown up and he's like super mature and he's like refined his like superheroing and he they like heavily hint at a sequel, and
oh
that
no, I
sequel
think
has
there
actually
is.
been yeah, oh yeah, no, that sequel has just straight up been confirmed like a while ago,
I went
and I'm
on,
really
yeah, and I
looking
was looking
forward to
up on
that.
IMDb and it said like Into the Spider-Verse 2, and I'm like, yay.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's already in the works right now. I have no idea when that's supposed to be coming out because animation movies take a while to make, and if it's going to be anything like this one, it's going to take a while because
Do you know how
they
long this
put
one took?
so much. I honestly don't remember how long it took them to make Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, but I would be very surprised if if they put the same level of dedication as they did into this as they do into the sequel. This movie's going to be phenomenal because the amount of like visual like sight like Easter eggs and like eye candy that they had in this movie was spectacular. Like I really like in the background, like you see like a bank that's just called the Trust Us Bank,
I
and
typed, sorry,
I just thought that was really funny.
I typed how long did it take to make Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and it just said an hour and 56 minutes. That's the running time. And I'm like, I don't
no,
think
no,
so.
no, that's how long it took to make. That's the
Wow.
internet doesn't lie.
Um yeah, I think definitely, so final verdict. I think this is definitely worth your time. It's really
Yeah,
interesting. It's a really interesting concept and premise, but also just the
yeah,
animation is so cool and so
yeah,
different. Like, it could
yeah.
have been just like any other animation, but it's like a
They,
comic
they,
book and it's
they yeah,
perfect.
they went the extra mile to make it seem as much as a comic book as possible and mix it with all these other different type of like comic book like art styles with like Looney Tunes and anime and like graphic noir and like pastel colors with like Spider Gwen and like it's just a really cool way how they were able to incorporate
And
all those different styles and mesh them so perfectly together.
you're definitely aware of it in the beginning, that there is. I feel like anytime any unfamiliar or different animation, you're aware of it, but then it's just you get over it. So I'm
Yeah.
like in the beginning, I was very aware of like, whoa, this is just so cool, and then I stopped noticing it. I mean, I noticed it, but I was just like, it just became part of it. Like I wasn't only paying attention to the animation. I mean, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Um, yeah, this is
But yeah, if you're a fan of Spider-Man or animation in any form or all forms, then definitely give this a watch. This thing definitely deserves your praise. I mean, this thing did not win Best Animation Feature for the Oscars and Golden Globes for a reason.
and it has a on on Flickster. It has a score of from critics 97% and
Yes,
audience is 93, but
yeah.
critics are
This is
97,
probably like my second favorite animated superhero movie.
followed by
What?
followed by what? Like what else?
Oh, we'll find out on another episode.
Oh,
This has
God.
been Movie Reel. I'm Kevin Tracy.
And I'm Samantha Tomlinson, and thank
S-
you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to rate us. Only nice things. We
Yeah,
have thin skin.
yeah. All right. Take care, everyone. Leave a suggestion on what we should review next. Bye bye.
Bye.